Welcome back, everybody, to more of the Fruit of Grisaia. Here we are on Sakaki's route. Last episode, we had a plan for confronting her father. Basically, we're going to try to out him as president of the company, using a few back channels, I guess. I'm not really sure about the whole details. But we told him, you know, be at the academy at 10 o'clock. I think it was 10. And we'll discuss things. Well, Miyaki's having none of that. He wants his daughter back, and he'll do whatever it takes to get her back. He's called somebody, but who?
ええ、
ああ、
もう来る気はありませんでしたが、緊急にとのことでしたので。
風見雄二から連絡があった。
はい、その旨報告は受けております。
Now, JB has been kind of helping Yuji along this whole time, you know. Not directly, kind of indirectly.
あの軍人上がり、生意気にも私を挑発してきた。由美子を返してほしければ、明日あの辺境の町へ来いとのことだ。
私どもの部下のやったこと、重ね重ねお詫びいたします。至急現地に赴きまして、説得を。
そんな猿芝居はもういいんだよ、春寺さん。
私はこの一件に関与していないと何度も申し上げ、証拠も提出したはずですが。
あくまで白を切り通すか。まあいい。ひとまず明日が終わるまではおとなしくしてもらうぞ。
He gave her the marching orders, didn't he?
おい、やれ。
はい。
社長、どういうおつもりですか？これは私どもに対する不当な行為であり、拘束など。
無論、あなたの上司の許可は得ている。表向きは泊まりがけのご招待だ。後で何を言おうが遠慮なくもみ消す。
This guy's a very dangerous man. He's taking, no chances. He'll do whatever it takes. He'll do whatever it takes.
あなた方が何を企んでいるのかは知らんが、こんなくだらない騒動で榊家の野望をついえさせるわけにはいかん。あの軍人上がりは即刻排除し、由美子は返してもらう。
何のことをおっしゃっているのか分かりかねます。
軍人はどこまでも任務に忠実だな。その心があなたの部下にもあればよかったのだが。何か連中と連絡を取るかもしれん。電波の届かない地下にでも閉じ込めておけ。
はい。
生きて帰れるだけマシだと思え。あの人ならば間違いなく存在ごと消していただろうからな。
Wait, what is he talking about? By the time the morning light against my eyelids wakes me, Yumiko's already gotten out of bed and dressed herself. Noticing me stir, she turns back to face the bed.
Yuji, おはよう。
Hiyo. Her voice is clear and dignified. There's no hint of the weakness or fear from last night. It sounds as though she steeled herself for what's coming. Yeah, morning. I roll out of bed and quickly begin my own preparations. A little while later, everyone's gathered in the lobby just as we arranged yesterday evening. There's 1 hour before our appointment with Miyaki. Time we'll use to make a few final preparations.
そろそろ時間ね。マキナ、裏口はしっかり固めた？
サッチンと一緒に厳重に固めたのよさ。
もし侵入者があってもすぐに分かるようにはしてあります。
Well, this isn't going to be a siege battle, but it never hurts to cover all your bases. Stay on your toes. How's it going on your end, Sachi? Sachi responds without taking her eyes off the screen of her laptop.
大丈夫です。予定通り臨時株主総会は開催されるようです。
At a glance, there's nothing odd visible from the video feed in the conference room she's monitoring. Okay. Now we just wait for the villain to make his entrance. Forming my right hand into a fist, I lightly smack it into my left palm. and almost as if someone's taking their cue, the sound of running footsteps approaches from outside the dorm.
来たわよ。なんかすごい大勢で来てる。
Returned from her patrol, Michiru bursts into the lobby in a state of obvious consternation.
じゃあ行ってくるわ。
Well, showtime. Yumiko, who had been sitting on the sofa in silence throughout our meeting, rises gallantly to her feet. As the others watch with concern in their eyes, she slowly opens the door and heads outside. I follow quietly in her wake. An extraordinary spectacle greets us. Specifically, it's an absolute swarm of jet black cars, reminiscent of that parent-teacher conference visit, but on a far greater scale. I count more than 10 vehicles at a glance. Wow, 10 vehicles. Hard-faced men in black suits who could easily pass for gangsters form a solid row in front of their cars. The dorm is entirely surrounded. The unbroken ring of vehicles and men stretches around the building at a distance of maybe 10 meters. Well, they're clearly not interested in letting us get away this time. Probably only natural, given his long pursuit and the insult I delivered last night. But above all else, I think the display of force is the product of Sakaki Miyaki's sheer stubborn tenacity. The rear door of the car stops directly in front of us, swings open, and with an extremely deliberate movement, a single man emerges. A slender, graying man, dressed in a conservative charcoal suit. His glare is sharp as a knife and significantly less friendly. Yumiko's father, Sakaki Miyaki.
まさか予告通り、馬鹿正直にここにいるとはな。
The first words out of his mouth are a toneless expression of surprise. As he looks over his daughter, the corners of Miyaki's mouth jerk up slightly into something resembling a smirk.
久しぶりだな。少し痩せたんじゃないのか。
ええ。突然襲われたり、海外に連れ去られそうになったり、必要に追われたりしたから。きっとそのせいだわ。
You tell him.
はっ。誰のためを思ってやったことなのか分かろうともせずに。まあいい。
Miyaki's scornful expression gives way with disconcerting smoothness to a gentle smile.
なあ、ユミコ。今ならばまだ許してやる。最後の慈悲だ。
He's lying.
お前が私の元へ戻ってくれば、その男は許してやろうじゃないか。泣いて許しを超え、お父さんごめんなさいと謝罪しろ。そうすれば全て丸く収まるんだ。さあ、早く。
What's she gonna do?
嘘よ。
I'll say that's a lie. Obviously a lie. I mean, he was lying to her his whole life, right? You know, bringing her back to live with him, and he was acting all nice like a real father should, and it was all a facade. It was all a farce. Those words mean literally nothing to her.
父親を信じられないのか。
No, she can't.
父親だなんて。あなたを父と思ったことなんて、あの裏切られた日以来、一度だってなかったわよ。
Yumiko's voice quivers with rage. Her teeth grinding audibly, she squeezes spiteful words out of her throat and fires them at Miyaki like arrows.
今日、こうしてあなたの前に立ったのは、娘として戻るわけでも、泣いて許しを請うわけでもないわ。
おお、何のためだと言うんだ。
A gust of wind blows across the yard, kicking up a swirling cloud of sand. For just a moment, it hides Miyaki's face from view, and when he appears again, Yumiko's tightly pursed lips open.
あなたと決別するためよ。
Miyaki doesn't even flinch, but Yumiko is pressed on regardless. Her eyes slightly downcast, letting the anger she's kept inside flow freely out of her.
ずっと孤独だった。あなたから捨てられ、何もない時間を過ごし、一方的に呼び戻されて、裏切られて。私にとっては 家族なんて存在しないも同然だった。一方的に放り込まれたこの学園でも、私は囚人同然の生活を押し付けられた。誰とも話せず、何も考えられず。けど
Yumiko turns back. Her gaze lingers on me and Sachi, then turns to the dorm where our other classmates are waiting. I've never seen such a peaceful smile on her face before.
ここには同じような傷を負った子たちがいたわ。すぐには無理だったけど、少しずつゆっくりと話していくことができた。そしてユウジが来た。ユウジもまたいろんなことを私に教えてくれた。
With a flutter of her hair, she spins back to face Miyaki once more.
なのに、あなたはそれすらもまた奪おうとした。私には空想なものばかりを与え、心の通ったものは何一つとして与えようとも、持つことも許さなかった。でも、もう私は言いなりにはならない。自分の口で喋って、自分の手足で動いて、あなたの人形になんかなり下がらない。あなたはたくさんのものを壊して潰してきたわ。お母さんだって裏切ってボロボロにした。
Yumiko's eyes open wide in a furious glare. Her teeth snap together even more loudly than before.
あなたみたいな感情のない機械なんかに父親だなんて言われたくなんかないのよ。
生意気な口を叩くな。
Oh. A harsh bellow cuts through the air. For a moment, Yumiko flinches back.
お前のような子供に何がわかる。
Miyaki takes a firm step towards us. He speaks in a voice so low, it seems to rise up from the ground underneath his leather shoes.
父から受け継いだ大盗品を小娘のわがままで潰すわけにはいかんのだ。ゴミのような周りの企業を掌握し、傀儡を増やし、いつかは国をも買う。それこそが父の夢であり、父と同じである私の夢だ。父は私を人形にした。自らがその人形の中に入り、動き、大盗品を揺るぎなきものにした。私はそれを継ぎ、お前を新しい人形にして、器をさらに大きくするのだ。
The thing standing in front of Yumiko right now isn't a human being. It's the incarnation of an ambition handed down through the decades. A company in the shape of a man trying to swallow her into itself.
その大いなる前提の前に、個々の意志などゴミに等しい。そんなものを大切だと説かれたところで、何の考えもない。
This man is too far gone for logic and reason. Nothing will reach him anymore.
やっぱり人間じゃないわ、あなた。
また小娘の分際で人間がどうだのと語るのか。もうたくさんだ。お前の母親もきっとそんな甘いことばかり言っていたから勝手に潰れていったのだろ
う。What?
お母さんのことをそんな風に言わないで。元はといえばあなたが原因を作ったんじゃないの。
会社の発展のためにあの程度のことすら許容することもできなかった強量な女だ。私が責任を感じることなど何もないだろう。
そう、全部やはり嘘だったのね。私に言ってきた言葉も態度も何もかもが。
This guy wouldn't say sorry if it was the only word he fucking knew.
さあ、時間の無駄だ。実力行使に出てもいいが、荒っぽいことはしたくない。おとなしく車に乗るんだ。
Is she gonna go with him? As Miyaki extends his hand, Yumiko draws back a step in refusal. The next words out of her mouth are delivered in a voice as cold as ice.
あなたはもう終わりよ。
なんだと？
わからないの？ なぜ勇士があなたを今日ここに呼んだのか。なぜ今日でなくてはいけなかったのか。
Michiyaki's eyebrows twitched ever so slightly. A moment later, with an expression caught halfway between an angry scowl and an amused smile, he answers.
今日。そうか。やはりお前たちがやったのか。
そうよ。東浜ホールディングスの臨時株主総会。社長の解任動議が今日可決されれば、あなたは社長の座を失う。私を傀儡にして達成するはずの野望も、ここで完全についえることになるわ。
Michiyaki listens to his daughter's words expressionlessly. There's no anger, no surprise, no scorn or fear. His face is simply blank. And somehow that indifference is more intimidating than any emotion could have been. Finally, a dry, rattling chuckle emerges from his throat.
何がおかしいの？
いいぞ、いいぞ、ユミコ。そうして社会のお勉強をするのか。これからの仕事に役立つな。いや、まさか自ら勉強してくれるとはな。
Clapping his hands together with easy confidence, Michiyaki responds as if genuinely pleased by the situation. There isn't the slightest hint of anxiety in his cold, amused eyes.
まだそんな強がりを言うつもりなの？現実を見てからそんなふざけたことを。
強がり？そういうのはきちんと情勢を確認してから言うんだな。お前の方こそ現実を見た方がいいんじゃないのか。
Yumiko turns around once more. Sachi is just lowering a cell phone from her ear, her face a ghastly shade of white.
あまねさんから今連絡が入りました。
The normally unflappable girl's voice shakes with disbelief.
賛成の動議に誰も立ち上がらないそうです。そんな。
Well, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
嘘でしょ？賛成するって言ってたはずなのに。
口裏を合わせたかのように静まり返っているのよさ。
これってダメなんでしょ？解任に賛成させなきゃいけないんでしょ？今すぐ連絡とかできないの？あまね。ダメよ。私らが直接この人たちに言ったわけじゃないもの。すごく面倒なルートを通しての約束だから、話をするにしてもまたそのルートを通さないといけないわ。じゃあこのまま黙って見ていろって言うの？
どうしようもないのよさ。そんな。
お前たちがあの市ヶ谷の女あたりと企んで反対派を動かしていたことぐらいは知っていたよ。まあ子供の革命ごっこがどこまで通じるのか興味半分で見ていたが、構成してきちんとした学校を出れば使ってやらんこともないぞ。
This guy knew it from the start. He knew what was going on behind the scenes. He's not a stupid man. He is not a stupid man. He knew that JB was, you know, talking to Yuji, planning stuff. You know, he knew all this. He knew what was going to happen. As Yumiko bites down on her lip in frustration, Michiyaki takes another step forward, his stride even larger and bolder than before.
さあ、今度こそ本当に終わりだ。私の人形になる覚悟を決めろ、ユミコ。
Well, maybe she'd go if he didn't phrase it like that.
いや。
覚悟を決めるのなら、そうだな。そこにいる軍人上がりのガキも性欲処理用として飼うのを許してやらんでもないぞ。まあその代わりに人間としての尊厳は極限までそぎ落とすがな。
そ そんなの許せるわけが。
Yumiko's still mounting her best attempt at resistance, but the momentum has shifted entirely in favor of her father. His face placid and composed, Miyaki takes another step forward. And this time his cruel eyes flick over in my direction.
おい、軍人上がり。そこに突っ立ってないで、お前も何か言ったらどうなんだ。
His tone of voice is light, teasing.
女にばかり前に立たせて喋らせるとは、情けないにも程があるだろう。
In strong contrast to her father's composure, Yumiko's voice twists with sorrow and fear. Without particularly reacting to either of them, I cock my head to the side and furrow my brow. Oh, that's funny. Do I hear a phone? That's probably me. Hang on. Miyaki grimaces sorrowing in evident
なん
disappointment.
だと？別に構わん。出るがいい。どうせすぐに
Wrong. Does sound like a phone's ringing. But it's not mine. Somebody else must be getting a call.
何を一体言っているんだ。
The man clearly seems to think someone less than important right now. For the first time, I meet his gaze with a powerful glare of my own. You still don't understand. It's your phone. With a very important call.
私のだと。
Dubiously, Miyaki reaches up for the pocket of his suit. The instant his hand touches the softly buzzing cell phone, his bemused expression changes to one of pure surprise. His eyes opened.
なぜ貴様に分かった？
That's not important. You should probably answer right away. Take a look at who's calling.
なんだと？こんな時にどこの誰が？
Muttering complaints to himself, Miyaki glances down at the screen. His face stiffens instantly.
村松国土交通大臣からだと。
Ooh, he sounds important. Should probably pick that up. He hurriedly presses down on the answer button, his attention now focused solely on the phone. The rest of us no longer seem to even register.
もしもし、村松大臣ですか。榊です。榊でございます。やっと出てくれましたか、榊さん。あ、申し訳ございません。ちょうど今お話ししておりました総会の最中でして。その総会のことで連絡があってね。手短に言うよ。はあ。
I think he's about to get his walking papers.
事情が変わってね。君を支援することはできなくなった。すまないが、潔く社長の座を降りてくれたまえ。
Oh, snap!
まあ、心配しなくとも相応の名誉職ぐらいは用意しておくから、それで納得するんだな。そんな、どういうことですか、大臣。あんたも面倒な部分に触れたもんだ。同情するよ。大臣、待ってください。どういうことですか、大臣。
浜根さん。はい。解任賛成が。はい、わかりました。伝えます。風見さん、今、天音さんから連絡があって、社長の解任動議が可決されたと。
It has? Oh. We didn't officially learn that, by the way.
様子見だった企業も次々と解任賛成に回り、最終的に8割の票を集めたそうです。
I nod casually to acknowledge Sachi's report. Thought as much, just how JB told me it would play out. Entirely on the other side of the emotional spectrum, Sakaki Miyaki stands before me in stunned, furious disbelief. It's hard to believe he's the same man who was full of confidence before that phone rang. How the tides have changed. Squeezing his cell phone with a quivering hand, he glares at me with an expression full of undisguised wrath.
お前ら、なぜだ。 どうして、そんな。
Reminds me of Yumiko's reaction when I brought her here yesterday. The man simply can't process the situation he's found himself in. I'll explain. Stepping out protectively in front of Yumiko, I approached her trembling father. It's just as you said. No matter how much a group of children struggle, it's fundamentally ridiculous to imagine they could stage a large-scale corporate conflict. Convincing the opposition to move would have been nearly impossible, unless people holding genuine power were leading the charge. However, there was one lever which could undoubtedly move even those deeply cautious men. An organization possessing tremendous influence, and the largest stockholder in the East Beach group. Once JB obtained a route to them through a certain connection of hers, our victory was all but assured. They were the focus of our attention from the very start. But as I'm sure you know, it never hurts to be doubly cautious in this sort of thing. That's why we attacked the problem from so many angles over the last year. After all, we were up against the great Sakaki Miyaki. If we spent all our time messing with the Ministry of Infrastructure, I'd expected you'd catch on and devised a counter-strategy. JB's connection had overwhelming influence over the Ministry, but Miyaki might still have managed to turn the tables on us if our movements were exposed in the early stages. We needed to set the wheels in motion without tipping him off to our real plans until the very last moment. That was the primary objective of all of our other movements. Therefore, we started building ourselves a pseudo-majority, knowing full well it would fall apart in the end. We liked to see a bunch of children sniffling around. Gave you a nice easy target to undermine.
反対派と妙な動きをしていたのはフェイクだったということか。
Exactly.
そんな。
Michiaki's cell phone clatters to the ground. His head slumps over Sagin's shoulders. The arrogance from a few minutes ago had vanished without the slightest trace.
終わりか。こんなにあっけなく。しかもこんなガキどもに。人生を賭して、すべてを捨てて。それが。
You're finished. Muttering reproachful words to no one in particular, he drags himself back to his car and climbs slowly inside. The black-suited men surrounding the area, perhaps sensing their employer's defeat, hurriedly begin to withdraw. With the roar of a dozen engines, clouds of dust from many tires fill the air, as if to mark the conclusion of our battle. Amani bursts out of the dorm moments later. Maki and Michiru follow in her wake, their faces overflowing with joy.
サッチンから聞いたぞ。お兄ちゃんは全部わかってたんだってな。
Yeah. Sorry for startling you.
もうびっくりしたわよ。最初からそういう仕込みだったなら言っておいてくれればよかったのに。
はい。私も連絡を受けた時は寿命が縮む思いでした。
あんたが言うぐらいだから相当なもんよね、サチ。ともかく、これで晴れて榊さんは自由の身なのよね、ユージ。
Yeah, she is. Sorry about the drama, Yumi. Just like the others, Yumiko's face is filled with relief at our come-from-behind victory. Or so I'd imagined. But when I turned around, I find something else entirely. Yumiko? Yumiko's turned her head in a different direction from the rest of us. No less still and quiet than before, she's gazing far off into the distance. I think you guys can head back inside before us? I turned to our friends, who nodded quickly and returned to the dorm. After watching them all enter the building, I fixed my eyes on Yumiko once more. Her face is fixed in the direction that group of cars had disappeared. The eyes of Sakaki Michiaki's only daughter are quietly gazing after the man who stayed her bitter enemy until the very end. Yumiko? I call out her name once more. But Yumiko doesn't move, and her expression doesn't change. She's not crying. It doesn't look like she's grieving. Her face is simply lonely. The clouds of dust that had been dancing through the air eventually fade away as the wind carries them out to sea. The familiar campus had returned to a familiar state, and still Yumiko stands, rooted to the spot. As I watch her from behind, I hear the cry of a kite overhead like a shrill note on a flute. The small black bird of prey glides serenely past us, making its way to the ocean, just like one I saw on the rooftop of this dorm once. It's a painfully normal summer scene, almost as if someone's trying to remind us how small our struggles really are, how insignificant our hatreds. No matter how much power you hold, no matter how wise and widely respected you may be, there's one force you're completely powerless to resist. No one in this world is capable of stopping the flow of time. True, if you spend enough money, you can usually prolong your life a little. But that's hardly the same as stopping or reversing the relentless march of the years. Back in the old days, there were rulers who thought systems of hereditary inheritance could grant them dominion over time. But open any history book and you'll find plenty of proof that was just another way of struggling in vain against the inevitable. Strict codes of law, beautiful writings, wise teachings, all these too eventually fade away. Still, there are always those who struggle against that oppressive rule, studying the failures of those who went before and seeking immortality through lines or deeds. And there are those who live ephemerally in the moment, ignoring the current of time entirely. Perhaps that's a valid means of escape in its own right. But no matter what approach we take, we're all fighting a losing battle. Some few among the most determined and brilliant may manage to build a milestone, but compared to the vast and unending road itself, such monuments are particularly significant. Time's an absolute tyrant. Everyone's powerless to resist its might. However, if you look at the matter from another angle, time is also our supreme problem solver, the ultimate healer of wounds. Given enough time, a Gordian knot too tangled for human hands to undo will naturally slip apart and return to its original form. Through the passing of years, a hardened clump of stone that won't dissolve under water or melt in fire will disintegrate all on its own. Time does not rule through fear alone. Like all that's truly absolute, it exerts its power indifferently over good and bad alike. Running my usual morning course, I breathe in and out at my usual steady rhythm. There's no hesitation in my movements. I could run this route in my sleep by now. I'm not bothering to measure or anything, but my heartbeat and calorie burn are probably exactly the same as they were yesterday. From a long-term perspective, I'll probably only be a few years before my current peak physical condition gives way to a slow, gradual curve of decline. But looking back over the last few years, my specs have stayed exceptionally consistent. I've never been negligent in keeping myself ready for emergencies of any kind. Well, my masters really beat that listening to me, I guess. Running comes so natural to me now that it's very easy to detach my mind from the movements of my body, often finding myself thinking over all sorts of things. Running comes so natural to me now that it's very easy to detach my mind from the movements of my body, often find myself thinking over all sorts of things. My master is a great believer in staying on your toes, preparing for the extraordinary in the most ordinary of times. Always think ahead, always stay prepared, always follow your routine. In the course of my monotonous daily training, there were times when everything seemed so calm that I couldn't help doubting the importance of all of it. But I've been plunged abruptly into crisis often enough to recognize that peace-addled complacency is for what it is. Even just over the last year, this sort of readiness proved immeasurably important. Still, I'd really like things to stay relatively peaceful for a while. Trying to drive a subtle shadow of unease from my mind, I focus on carrying out my comfortably familiar peacetime training. The late summer sun creeps up into the sky, gradually warming the earth below. It's been 2 months since we returned to this place, and in reality nothing too dramatic has happened in that time. Even compared to the peaceful time I spent here before, nothing's really... Well, no. I suppose there have been a few minor changes to the previous routine. I'm back! For one thing, I've started consistently saying this phrase immediately after returning to the dorm. There were occasions when I said those words before, but it was a pretty uncommon event, reserved for when somebody happened to be in the lobby when I opened the door.
おかえりなさい、ユージ。
But now I've got a reason to announce my return every single time. Well, namely, there's always a certain someone here to say those words too. Well, I'm sorry about slipping out. I was a little worried you might not be getting enough sleep, waking up at the same hour as me.
あなたと一緒に寝起きしているんだから、そうでもないわよ。はい、タオル。
Thank you. Taking the towel from Yumiko, I roughly scrubbed the sweat off my face. Whew. And when I look up again, an attractive young woman standing very close to me with a distinctly wistful expression on her face. Slightly exasperated, I heave a quiet sigh. Look, Yumiko, I think we've been over this before.
いや、わかってるから。
Waving her hands in the air, she interrupts my earnest warning in a flustered tone of voice.
ここは公共の場。だからそういうのは部屋に戻ってからにしないかって。
That's right. Glad to see you got the message after all.
だから、その...
Okay.
軽く抱きしめるだけで、
Alright.
今は我慢するから。
Let's have a hug. Okay, look, woman. I don't do hugs. Is this seriously the same person who used to swing a box cutter at me every time we met? Turning her blushing face slightly away, she flutters brief glances in my direction. I don't think I'll say this to the girl herself, but it's not far from the sort of come-hither look you'd get from pros in a red-light district. I mean, yes, I do understand that this is the product of sincere affection, alright? I'm not stupid. But seriously, when the girl's just blatant about it, it's hard not to get suspicious. Something Machina told me once comes to mind. Machina, of all people. To wit, women of the Kuderi tribe are a pain in the ass. They're not used to showing affection, so once they do get sweet, they'll give everyone in a 3-mile radius cavities. Well, that said, giving her the cold shoulder would just be making more trouble for myself in the long run, really. Just yesterday, I tried brushing off Yumiko's excessive demands for public displays of affection. She retaliated with hours of sulky, reproachful glaring. That still falls well into the cute category, but the effort involved in smoothing her feathers after the fact only amplifies the pain in the ass factor. And so I decided to give in to her demands like the hopeless sap I am. Fine. Here we go. Pulling Yumiko over to me, I embrace her lightly at arm's length. I did wipe myself down a little with the towel, but I'm still just back from exercising. Can't exactly go for the bear hug.
ユージ。
And as if to say the hell with your thoughtfulness, the woman dives forward and nuzzles her pretty face against my chest, already in heat, first thing in the damn morning. I think you're aware, but I kind of stink right now. Don't cling to me like that.
いいの。
Ew.
いいな。ユージの匂い。
Pheromones have their limit, lady.
男って感じがすごくする。
If your past self could see you now, she'd probably break down in tears.
そうかしら。むしろ昔の私は幸せすぎて泣くんじゃないかしら。動いちゃダメ。じっとしてて。
Honestly. Hey, Yumiko?
なに?
Charming as it is to watch you get drunk off my body, I think it's time for you to back off now.
何よ。もうちょっと堪能させなさいよ。いつ触っても飽きないな。この熱い胸板。これが毎日私を押しつぶして。
Well, I don't personally mind if you want to continue grunting in satisfaction while fondling my pecs. I do it in the mirror all the time, but I'd recommend taking a look behind you first.
いいな、ユージの匂い。
いやー、人間長く生きてみるものね。こんな光景を毎日見ることになるなんて少しも想像できなかったわよ。
人間の無限の可能性を感じるのはみちる様だけではなかったのですね。この小峰幸、毎日が発見の連続です。
Makina trots energetically up to Yumiko, currently frozen solid. The intensity of her grin is genuinely unpleasant.
お兄ちゃんの裸を思い出して燃え上がっちゃったんだよな。でも朝からこういうことしてると夜の生活バレバレだからやめとけな。
Thumping Yumiko's shoulders, in a companionable way, she barrages her with merciless words. The young woman in question, her hands still frozen pitifully in the air where my chest had been, looks around the lobby like a high school drama student doing their best imitation of a robot.
ああ、朝から脂っこいの見ちゃったせいで胸焼けしたわ。戻ろう戻ろう。
そうですね。榊さん、どうもごちそうさまでした。
ユミコ、最低限の人間の尊厳は保つようにしなさいよね。このままいけばロビーセックスも十分にありえるのよさ。
One by one, the others give the statue stiff Yumiko a friendly slap on the shoulders, then saunter off mocking her. There's some real affection underneath those wry smiles, but also undeniably a good deal of exasperation mixed in as well. Hey Yumiko, you alright? She's fine. I'm gonna take that as a no. Yumiko, stunned speechless, lets out an anguished grunting moan of the sort I'd usually expect from Michiru. We've actually had more than a few incidents like this over the last 2 months, but today was exceptionally bad. Well, I tried to warn her. I did. Maybe that will be a bit of a lesson to the girl. Can only pray she finally cut down on the public dare somewhat. Earth to Yumiko. I'm going back to my room now, alright? Shaking my head with a smile, I head back to my room. By manipulating the Minister of Land, Transport, and Infrastructure, we succeeded in removing Sakaki Miyaki from his role at the top of the HB group, putting an end to his pursuit of Yumiko. How we did that is not very clear, but we did it, alright? The director was successfully raised up as an opposing power, essentially a puppet of the government, has already discontinued Michiaki's aggressive strategy of expansion in favor of a much more stable and low-risk style of management, which means he'll probably be out the next time the board votes. The East Beach group has shed its image as the Sakaki family's personal empire. With surprising speed, it's being reformed into a very different kind of enterprise. The West Beach group. You know, they move from one beach to another beach. It's completely different. It's crazy. Someday people probably won't even remember that they were once mocked as bandits. As for Mahama Academy, well, it's going to be closing its doors. The only reason this place was open because it was of Yumiko's father. There were potential PR issues because of its connection to Michiaki's struggle with his daughter, and on a purely practical level, the new management took issue with the lavish, inefficient spending that defined Mahama's administration. I mean, really? This gigantic facility for what, like 6 people? Like, come on, really? They did explore restoring it as a more conventional school, but given the location and circumstances, it was estimated that attracting a sufficiently large student body would prove difficult. In the end, the project was simply abandoned. Then again, from beginning to end, this school had never had more than 6 students. Putting aside the facilities and funding, once that framework changed, Muhammad would still have stopped being what it was. In exchange for the academy's closure, the dormitory was allowed to remain open in a different form. Without a school attached, it's become a simple apartment building. They entrusted the management to the former students for the time being, enabling us to continue our lives virtually the same as before. Everyone's using this place as a launch pad for the next stage of their lives. Amane will apparently be leaving to help out at her family's traditional restaurant, with Makino once their preparations are in order. Sachi and Michiru are going to be transferring together to a boarding school the principal recommended. However, even if we all end up leaving this place behind, we've made plans to periodically meet up again. The 6 of us may have been born in different places, but in a way we all feel as if we grew up here. Although we've regained our familiar daily life, little by little things are starting to change, and Yumiko is certainly no exception. After dramatically transforming her world, she's trying to adapt herself to a whole new routine. Thanks for helping with breakfast.
はい、どうぞ。
Eating my meals around this table with Yumiko already feels completely natural. Today we've got grilled salmon and boiled greens and soy sauce that I made, and soup and rice courtesy of Yumiko. Yeah, looks like you've gotten the hang of miso soup now. I didn't have to call the fire department today. Kudos.
本当？
Why would I lie now? It's really good.
よかった。嬉しい。
Her eyes full of relief, Yumiko favors me with a sincere smile. Aww. Since we started living together in my room, the girls gradually eased her way into cooking. At first she was burning pans more often than cooking food, but under the strict tutelage of Madame Su Amane, she's finally learned how to make miso and other simple soups. You're learning boiled food next, right? Amane was pretty enthusiastic. Sounds like she enjoys teaching you.
あまねの指導ってちょっと怖いのよね。何か大があるような気がしてならないわ。
Well, the two of them have finally gotten friendly enough to use each other's first names, so I guess that lingering tinge of jealousy isn't anything to be that worried about. Mane's probably just playing around for the most part, but since I'm clearly part of the issue, I can't exactly stick my head in either way. Seeking a change of subject, I reach out for my rice bowl. Looks like you got the rice just right, too. When I look across the table again to praise Yumiko, I find her chopsticks pass hesitantly in midair. What's wrong? You're not eating. I call out to her again. She starts a little, then smiles.
ちょっとね。
No, it's something. Morning light flows in softly through the window. The faint touch of sun on her skin makes Yumiko's smile seem almost eerily gentle.
なんだか今でも信じられない。こうしてみんなと楽しく生活してユージとも一緒に暮らせるなんて昔だったら絶対にありえなかった。
Before, Yumiko was always alone. The girl absolutely did not choose that solitude. She always longed to have someone at her side, and many times she tried to convince herself there would be. Those hopes were betrayed again and again. Yumiko plunged into despair, gave up on connecting with others, and hid herself from the world. But after she came to this dorm, her walls slowly began to crumble.
小さい頃あんなに人が怖くてもう関わることなんてやめようって思ってたのに。
Yumiko warmed up to her classmates. She fell in love with me, and her solitude finally came to an end. Considering the way she used to be, it's not surprising she'd find all this a little hard to believe.
ありがとう、ユージ。
Yeah, I'm happy for you, Yumiko. That smile's coming from the heart. Yumiko looks genuinely content, like someone who's gotten everything they've ever wanted. But when the girl talks about how happy she is, sometimes I see a very slight shadow fall across her face. And although it's just speculation on my part, I think I know why. Through our trap, Sakaki Miyaki lost everything he had built in a single day. Tripped up by the willful daughter he wanted to manipulate like a puppet, the man vanished in defeat. The supremely arrogant emperor who stepped out of the car that day left a crushed and broken man. Those deeply contrasting images are still crystal clear in my memory. And for Yumiko, his daughter, that moment must have felt like a far stronger impression. There wasn't just hatred in her eyes as she quietly watched her father disappear. I'm sure many complex emotions were running through her mind. Following that incident, Sakaki Miyaki essentially abandoned both his personal and professional life. The mass media he'd previously muzzled through force briefly latched onto the dramatic overthrown tyrant storyline, but in time their interest died out. By now the man's already becoming part of the past. Miyaki still got a nearly 10% stake in the group, along with a new honorary position, so he shouldn't exactly be starving. Still, he's been lying low to the point that it's almost unsettling. Sometimes I just can't help wondering if he's lurking in the shadows somewhere, steadily plotting revenge and working toward a comeback. But that hypothesis doesn't really stand up to scrutiny. I couldn't see any hint of spirit in the hollowed-out shell of a man who climbed back into his car that day. And judging from the way she watched him go, Yumiko probably sensed something similar. Her father had been the focus of all her hatred for years. He was the ruthless creature who chained her down. But underneath his armor, he was just one incredibly frail human being, as we all are. Every bit as weak as Yumiko herself once was. Watching her father stripped naked and chased from this place in the world, the girl no doubt felt a painful twinge of recognition and empathy. To survive, to carve out her own place in the world, there was no choice but to overthrow him. But that doesn't mean it left an entirely pleasant taste in her mouth. Yumiko? Again, there's that slight hint of listlessness in her expression. Even when Yumiko's acting cheerful, I can't help picking out these slight signs of fraying at the seams. You keep stopping your chopsticks.
大丈夫。なんでもないわ。
I've been refraining from asking Yumiko about this. She obviously hasn't even begun to sort out her own feelings. It'd be cruel to make her all dwell on any further. Alright, I know what you're thinking about.
何？
Moving smoothly around the table, I push her down to the floor. We got interrupted halfway through, didn't we? Maybe you wanted something like this.
そんな。そうでもあるけど。
So I covered up with a white lie. And Yumiko, for her part, accepts that lie.
ダメよ。急にそんな。まだこんなに明るい
What
の。
does that have anything to do with it? Her words are hesitant, but her fingers twine through mine. As if to request the next step, her entire palm squirms coquettishly in my grasp. That's like flirtish, so you know. You learned a word today. Your hands seem to have a different opinion. I'm not sure who to believe.
もう意地悪言わないで。
Seems she wasn't really rejecting me. I leaned down and pressed my lips against hers, pretending not to notice the wounds on each other's backs. We run our hands across the undamaged surface alone, seeking comfort. I know we'll have to treat those wounds eventually, but right now we need time. We need this. Yumiko hasn't had real peace for practically her entire life. At the very least, I want to give her a chance to think. Suddenly, shrill electronic music fills the air. We stop and smile wryly at each other.
ごめんね。ちょっと待って。
With one more brief peck on her lips, Yumiko pulls herself out from under me. She flips open her bleeding cell phone and glances at the screen.
弁護士さんだわ。
After letting me know that, she picks herself up off the floor and presses the answer button.
はい、もしもし。はい、先日はありがとうございました。
Yumiko recently hired a lawyer to sort through the legal issues involved with their situation. He's also helped make arrangements for managing the Sakaki family's property, now that Miyaki's all but fallen off the face of the earth. The family affairs are understandably chaotic at the moment, so it's a lot for Yumiko to handle on her own. Still, she's been diligently negotiating, selling off what needs to be sold and trying to keep things from falling apart. I assume this phone call is another update on their progress. But the peaceful conversation I was expecting changes dramatically with a small cry of surprise from Yumiko. It's not just the tone of her voice. The calm look on her face gave way to a grim and severe expression. More than a little concerned, I picked myself up off the ground and watched.
はい。はい。ええ、わかりました。では明日いらした時に詳しく。はい。
After hanging up the phone, Yumiko gazes down at the screen in disbelief, not speaking a word. Did something happen? Did Miyaki give you everything he owns? This time I find myself unable to bite my tongue. Yumiko, her face still blank with shock, finally turns to face me.
あの人が。
That man. There's nothing in the phrase that suggests Yumiko's talking about a relative, but there's only one person she ever refers to that way.
あの人が。
Oh! He
私に
did!
全て譲渡したそうよ。
I'm a prophet, you guys. You guys want to know the lottery numbers for tomorrow? Everything. Confusion in her eyes, Yumiko nods shortly.
あの人の持っていた全ての株式を
He's like
私に譲渡した。
repenting, like giving her everything he has to hope to make some kind of, heal the wound up just a little. Sakaki Miyaki did. Yumiko didn't respond. She just gazes intently down at her phone, complex emotions flitting across her face, almost as if the man in question was standing in front of her. It's the same expression that was on her face 2 months ago as she watched her father disappear. An expression of loneliness, anger, and profound sorrow. Three years later, the muted murmur of a television echoes through the spacious room. There's no other sound to be heard. Now submerged in a plush sofa, I abruptly open my eyes at the sound of a voice on the television. It's a familiar voice, one I've been hearing on a daily basis for a long time now. I must have nodded off halfway. I move my eyes back to the enormous LCD screen mounted on the wall. Yumiko, wearing a tailored professional suit and a resolute expression, listens carefully to her interviewer's questions and offers a precise response. That was a pretty nostalgic dream just now. Maybe it's because I spoke with Amane on the phone the other day, but I dreamed of our time at Mahama Academy. I find my mind running back over the events that turned Yumiko into the public figure she is today. When Sakaki Miyaki transferred all of his stock in the eSpeech group to her, Yumiko thought long and hard about what to do with it all. She even considered selling the entire stake and donating the proceeds to charity. It was, in some sense, tainted money. And more importantly, slightly less than 10% of that company still amounted to an astronomical sum of money. Yumiko wanted to live a peaceful life on her own terms, and she knew that kind of money would change everything. But after much agonizing, she ultimately decided to accept it. And then, while using her newfound wealth to attend a top-flight university, she started up her own company, one that's proven wildly successful. Right now, it's becoming increasingly frequent for her to appear in the media as an exemplary young entrepreneur. As to why Yumiko voluntarily entered the same corporate world that tied her down for so long, well, I've never asked her point blank, but I do have the feeling it's got something to do with the open wound she's been ignoring for the last 3 years. Probably the same reason that she didn't sell off this house, despite all the bad memories it must hold for her. We're living here together right now. I guess there comes a point when avoidance doesn't make your scars ache any less. My other cell phone begins to ring for the first time in 3 years. After carefully confirming the name on the caller ID screen, I hit the answer button. Hey, it's been a while. There's a moment of silence, but in that time many unspoken words passed between us. Although I was officially reprimanded after the incident 3 years ago, a certain influential force in Ichigai's upper echelons shielded me from far more serious of charges and arranged for my reinstatement on the reserve. That said, I was no longer interested in returning to my previous workplace, as supporting Yumiko had become my first and foremost priority. I took my chance to formally resign. Naturally, this led to an estrangement from JB. There was one and only one thing I'd ask of her at the end. It was a job better suited to a detective agency than a professional of her caliber, but I asked anyway, fully aware of my selfishness. JB accepted that strange request without particular comment. I didn't ask why, but it felt as though she wanted to tie up that same loose end herself.
3年前に頼まれてた最後のお願いについて分かったことがあるわ。
I already knew the reason she was making this phone call. It had to mean she's found some sort of answer to that odd request I made of her. There's no longer any other reason for JB to contact me. I see. Thank you, Julia.
言っておくけど、あまりいい結果は期待できないかもよ。
It's alright. I still want to know.
分かったわ。
I mechanically jot down JB's indifferent words in a notepad that was lying nearby. As the trees outside sway in the wind, a muted sound of rustling foliage carries through the otherwise silent room. After ending the call with JB, I tuck the black cell phone away and take out the one I normally use. The call history is filled almost entirely with a single number. Clicking on it, I bring the phone to my ear.
Yumiko
and I walk leisurely down the road leading to the station. She's got a lot on her plate at work right now, but the moment I called, she managed to open her schedule. Yeah, there's something I wanted to talk about. Sorry about dragging you out.
ユージとこうやって出かけること自体が久しぶりだし、全く構わないわよ。
Yumiko smiles happily. I haven't told her the real reason for the outing yet. That was a deliberate decision. I didn't want it to be weighing on her mind from the very start.
今日はどこに行くの？
It's a slightly far off place, actually.
にしてはすごく軽装で出てきたけど。
Well, true now that you mention it. Yumiko glances over at me with a puzzled expression. This vague, riddle-like conversation continues as we climb the stairs to our local train station. Changing trains after a few stops, we make our way out of central Tokyo and head for the south part of the Kanto region. Colorful port cities flash by outside the windows. Eventually, these give way to peaceful-looking little valley towns. As vivid shades of green start to dominate the scenery, Yumiko grows progressively quieter. The train's heading straight for that place. We wouldn't be going there without good reason. Yumiko's no doubt starting to realize this won't be the lighthearted outing she'd expected. Our destination lies in the town where Yumiko spent the loneliness years of her childhood. By the time we're standing before the building itself, her expression's painfully tense.
ユージ、どういうことなの？
Alrighty. Well, I think I'm going to end the video off here. And I will see you all on Friday where we're going to finish this up. Okay? So, have a good day, everybody.